why you should always take buyer feedback. We are going to discuss why it's so important, and in particular in today's market where it is a little bit more of a buyer's market and they have lots of choices. Let's get into it. So let's go through an example of clients that I worked with where their backyard and the buyer feedback we were getting was really geared towards the maintenance of the yard. And part of this was they were actually moving back into a townhouse, which is a much better lifestyle for them, a lot easier, no maintenance. You have the strata who comes, they take care of the grass, they take care of the gardening, and things in the yard had become really overgrown. So part of the buyer feedback we were getting was that people couldn't really see the size of the yard and how usable it was. And part of it was also the way the garden was done by the previous owner. It was raised up a little bit, so you couldn't see that it was completely flat, and everything back there was overgrown. So we had trees that needed to come down, just a lot of bushes, weeds everywhere. The grass had stopped growing because there wasn't a lot of sunshine coming in there because everything was just hindering things from growing. So we also had on that particular property was a pergola that was coming off the back of the house, and it had one of the darker coverings on it, and then with all of the tree droppings, the branches, everything was coming down, so it was making it darker inside the house. So we had two big components to contend with on that property. And so we took the feedback, go back to the seller, and I have to say too, when we go back to you, we are working in your best interest and wanting you to address some of the issues that are keeping buyers from offering on your home, because the whole goal of it is to get buyers in the door, to make them choose your property over somebody else's, and have them make an offer on your home. But if there's certain things that are hindering them from moving forward, then you definitely have to address it. And in this case, we were getting the consistent feedback was all the same from the buyers. It was too dark, and the backyard needed too much work. Now, for a lot of people, it can be really overwhelming to come into a house. You're already moving. It's already a very stressful situation for everybody. And then the thought of, now I'm gonna have to take on this big project. And some people, like me, I am terrible at gardening. We have, thankfully, artificial turf, and we might also have some fake plants, which look amazing, by the way, and they look pretty real. I'm terrible at gardening. So, and plus I don't enjoy it. I don't have the time to do it. And then I see other people's gardens and I think, oh my goodness, I wish our garden looked like that. But anyways, I digress. So back to the story at hand. And the consistent feedback we were getting was that the backyard was just too overgrown. People couldn't see the actual useful space. And again, it was dark. So there was some resistance from the seller to go ahead and get this cleaned up. And of course, now at this point, we were in the summer months where the backyard becomes more of a factor for people. They're wanting to see what it looks like. They want to see some growth. They want to see color. They want to see sunshine. When we're in the wintry months, especially here in southern BC, it rains all the time. People don't expect the yard to look really attractive. They just expect it to look clean and taken care of. So it took probably about a good 3 months, and the seller finally decided to address what was going on in the backyard. Now, where this story becomes really important, and it just emphasizes the fact of really taking to heart and taking it home buyer feedback. One of the neighbors had noticed all the work that they were doing and everything coming out of the backyard. And their friends had been to view this house at an open house a few months before that. And so they had notified their friends. They're doing a bunch of work in the backyard. They knew that they had some concerns about it. And then those buyers, they did a couple of drive-bys, and then they made another appointment with their agent to come view the property again. So that was great. Now, I pretty much always meet the buyers with their agent at the property so I can talk to them about the property. And so that's how I knew kind of what was happening here. And what was really great was that the feedback and implementing the feedback was working. So these people came back, they looked at the house again, they could see the size of the yard, they could see the potential now in the yard because it was basically turned into a clean slate. And the sellers, they removed everything. So everything was gone from the backyard and it looked amazing. So before we even had a chance to rephotograph for the listing to show what was done, these buyers made an offer. We were able to get a deal through and the sellers sold their house. So this is a perfect example of what can happen when you listen to that feedback, you implement it, you do everything that is asked, and you know what? You're gonna sell your house. The moral of the story, take that buyer feedback. You may not like the buyer feedback, you may even disagree with it, but when your house or your property is on the market, it has now not become so much your home, but a product where you want others to see all of the benefits of living in that home and making an offer on your property. Thanks for watching.